Hello again. Nana Lynn is here to read for you again. We were reading in the book, The Missing Kitten. We were on chapter 7, Lost and Alone. Oh dear. You remember last time that Boots had gotten locked in a supply closet or an equipment closet at the school when he followed Suzanne. Okay. Boots, Suzanne called happily as she opened the front door to let herself in. Boots, come and meet Izzy. Dad hurried out of the kitchen. You didn't see him in the road? Suzanne said, What? Boots, he's not out there? I wondered if he'd slipped out somehow. He must have, because I can't find him anywhere. Dad glanced distractedly up and down the hallway, as though he thought Boots might pop out from behind the boots. You can't find him? Suzanne stammered. You mean he's lost? I'm sorry, Suzanne. Dad ran his fingers through his hair until it stood up on end. I had a long phone meeting all morning that finished about an hour ago. Then I went to find Boots and checked that he was all right, but he disappeared. I just don't understand how he could have gotten out. Maybe he didn't, Izzy suggested shyly. He could be shut in somewhere. Oscar's always doing that. He climbed into a drawer once and went to sleep. My mom didn't see him, and she shut the drawer. Then she got a real shock because her dresser was meowing. Well, maybe, Dad murmured, but he looked doubtful. Let's check again. Suzanne grabbed Izzy's hand and pulled her up the stairs while Jackson hurried into the living room. Bathroom, Suzanne muttered. Not in here. Linen closet, maybe? She pulled the door open, but no kitten darted out. Jackson's room. She peered in and called, Boots! Boots! He isn't here, is he? I'm sure he'd come if he heard me calling, or he'd meow to tell me where he was. He could be asleep. Try the other rooms just in case. Suzanne peered into her mom and dad's room, opening the dresser and all the dresser drawers. But there weren't even any orange hairs. This is my room, she told Izzy, pushing the last door open. Boots! Suzanne caught her breath. She'd been hoping to find him asleep on her bed, but he wasn't there. Your window's open, Izzy said slowly. Oh, but he couldn't get out through that. Suzanne shook her head. It's really high. Well, it depends on how much he wanted to, Izzy frowned. The girls climbed onto the bed so that they could look out the window. You see? He could jump on there, Izzy pointed toward the low part of the roof. And there's all that ivy stuff. That's like a cat ladder. You think he really could have climbed down that? Izzy looked down at the grass. He might have. Dad came in with Jackson behind him. He isn't in the house, Dad said grimly. Was that window open, Suzanne? Yes. Suzanne nodded, her eyes filling with tears. I'm really sorry, Dad. I didn't think Boots would try to climb out of it. He can hardly get up the stairs, and the windowsill's really high. It isn't your fault. Dad put an arm around her. I should have checked on him earlier. None of us realized that he'd be able to climb out of the window. I think he did, though. Some of that bush has been torn away. Can we go look for him? Suzanne asked. He might have tried to get to the school again and gotten lost. Oh, Dad, what if he went out on the road? Dad hugged her tighter. Don't panic, Suzanne. I don't think he would because he's scared of the car noises. Remember how I meowed when we got him out of the car at the vet? Even though he was safe in his basket, he didn't like it when the cars went past. And why would he get confused about the way to school when he made it yesterday? He let go of Suzanne and headed for the door. I'm going to call the school and see if he's turned up there. Suzanne sank down on her bed, staring up at Izzy. I can't believe it. Everyone's been telling me today how lucky I am and how beautiful Boots is. And now he's gone. And I've only had him a couple of weeks, Izzy. How could I have lost him? It was starting to get dark. Boots scratched at the door with his claws again, but they were starting to hurt. He'd hoped he could make that little thin strip of light and fresh air bigger, maybe even big enough to squeeze through. But all he'd managed to do was scratch off some of the paint. Miserably, he sank down, meowing faintly. No one seemed to hear him, and it had been a long time since he'd last heard anyone outside. Maybe he would have to stay here all night, he thought anxiously. Suzanne wouldn't know where he was. Maybe she was looking for him. He stood up again quickly, even though his paws felt sore, and meowed as loudly as he could. Suzanne would look for him, he was sure of it. But even though he called and called and called to her, she didn't come. And at last, He had to give up. He was worn out from scratching and meowing, and he dragged his sore paws back to the pile of mats. Then he curled up into a tight little ball and lay there in the gathering darkness, wondering how long it would be before anyone found him. Oh dear, poor Boots. We can make some lost posters, Izzy suggested the next morning. If we ask Mrs. Mason, I bet she'll let us use the computer to make flyers. We could put them up all around town on the way home. Suzanne nodded. She should have thought of that the night before. After Izzy had gone home, she and Jackson had searched the house all over again. And then Suzanne had gone to bed and cried herself to sleep, knowing that her little kitten wasn't curled up in his basket in the kitchen. He was out there in the dark, and she had no idea where. We could go to the houses between here and the school and ask if anyone's seen him, she suggested, shivering at the thought of poor Boots wandering around lost somewhere. Good idea, Izzy agreed. We could get people to check their garages. Don't worry, Suzanne. I can help with that. I know almost everybody in town, and it's scary if you don't know people. Well, that would be great, Suzanne said. She'd do anything if it meant finding Boots, even if she had to talk to hundreds of people she didn't know. Excuse me. A couple of middle school girls came past Suzanne and Izzy on their way in. Hey, Suzanne, did you get into trouble with Miss Wilson yesterday? One of them asked. What? When your kitten came back. I thought your brother said Miss Wilson was angry and told your dad that he had to keep your kitten at home. Suzanne forgot all about being shy. You mean you saw Boots? Are you sure it was yesterday? And she asked the older girl eagerly. Yes, definitely. The older girl, Suzanne was pretty sure her name was Emma, frowned. I saw him looking in the classroom window, but then he ran off. Why? What's the matter? Boots is lost, Suzanne explained. Dad had him in the house, but he climbed out of a window. We think he must have tried to follow us. We weren't sure he had made it to school, but if you saw him, then he was definitely here. You're not mixing up the days, Izzy asked Emma doubtfully. Emma shook her head. Nope, I'm certain it was yesterday when it was raining, and your kitten was soaked. His fur was actually dripping. I saw him out the window. He was in the playground before recess, I think. He must have gotten out the window really soon after we left, Suzanne said. Thank you, Emma. I have to go and look for him. Well, let's hope that Suzanne is able to find Boots. I don't know. He's kind of lost, isn't he? And nobody knows where he is. He really doesn't even know where he is. So, next time, we'll finish up our book. We'll find out how they find Boots, if they find Boots, and hopefully we'll have a happy ending. All right. Rest well.